Hey everybody, it's Beej with Lambda School. Next for our Django project, we're going to talk about adding a .env file. We're going to use this to track our secret key and other variables that we have set. We'll talk about why we're going to use an env file, how to use one, and why it shouldn't be checked into source control. So let's have a look and see what we have in our project so far. When we left it, we'd added a new model, but what we're going to do now is we're going to want to take some of the information out of our settings.py file for our project and move that someplace a little bit safer. We see right here we've got a secret key, and there's a warning here: keep the secret key used in production secret. And then there's another security warning here for debug being set to true. What we'd like to do is not share this secret key with anybody. And so what we're going to do is move it out of our settings.py and put it somewhere else. This way we can check settings.py into source control without anybody knowing our secret key. That's half of what we're doing this for. Another thing we're doing this for is that by having secret key defined somewhere else, then we could have different secret keys in different situations. For example, during development, we might want to use a secret key like the one we see here. In production, we may have a completely different secret key that we want to use. Or also, in development, we might want debug to be true, but in production, we want debug to be false. And if we have these checked into our file directly like this, then it becomes difficult to change them when we deploy. But if we move them into a separate file where they are pulled in at runtime, then we can change these values between our production server and our development server. So we're going to do that using a module called Python decouple. So let me pop over and install that. You can see we're in our virtual environment already. So I'm going to install Python decouple. Give that a second to work. And then once we have this in place, we can jump back to our settings and we can bring in some of that functionality. I'm going to import the config function. This is going to do a lot of work for us. What we're going to do is replace this line with one that looks like this. And then in our .env file, I'm going to define a value for secret key. And we will define it to be this. And then we can pull the actual secret key value out of our settings.py. So let's do that right now. So out at the main level, let me go ahead and open a new file here, my .env file. And in this, I'm going to go ahead and steal this line because this works very similarly. So here's our .env file with the secret key defined as that. And now I'm going to pull this line out. So now at runtime, what's going to happen is Python decouple is going to go look in the .env file, look up the value of secret key, and replace that right here with the value it finds in the .env file. And now I want to do the same thing with debug. So debug is true there. So I'm going to go to my .env file and I'm going to say debug is true. And then over here, I can change this line to pull it out of the config file. Now there's a little catch here because config returns a string. And we have here the string true, T-R-U-E, but we actually want it to be a Boolean value. It's a Boolean value on this line. So we can tell it to be forced to be a Boolean with this cast option. So this will return the value from the config file or from the .env file as a Boolean. So now we've successfully pulled this out. And we don't want to check our .env file in because it's got a secret key in it. The secret key, by the way, is used by Django to do a variety of things, including encrypting username or user passwords. It's not immediately apparent what the user password is if you know the secret key, but having the secret key helps out tremendously in cracking them. So it's a good thing to keep secret. Because of this, we don't want to keep the secret key in source control. So we're going to make sure it stays out of it. Let's have a look and see what our .getignore file looks like. It looks like we don't have one yet. So in order to make sure that we don't have it, or that we don't actually check it in, I'm going to go ahead and make a .getignore file. And inside that, we're going to put .env. Just to make sure that we don't accidentally check it in to our source code repo. So if we run the server at this point, everything should still start up correctly. And again, what we've done here is we've added these variables into our .env file. So now that they're pulled away. And what you'll find if you do a deploy to something like Heroku, you'll find that you set these values on the Heroku side. You set secret key, you set debug on the server side, and those will get set to different values than we have here. So as a challenge, take a look through your settings file and see what other variables there that it might be useful to put in the .env file and why it would be useful to put them in. And then just in case, maybe if you've accidentally already checked your key into source control, go ahead and make a new key and put it in your .env file. Do some Googling, figure out how to generate a new Django secret key. As always, thanks for watching.